Hello there, good evening, and welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. My name is Robert Kesakos, and thank you for tuning into the channel from wherever it is that you're catching this. If you're just listening, thank you for taking the time. For all our subscribers, thank you. And those that are new to the channel, do not forget to like, comment, share, and to subscribe as we continue to grow our football community. So allow us to get right into it, reviewing all the match day 12 action from the Premier League and more. What a weekend we had! What a beautiful Sunday we had as Chelsea shared the spoils with Manchester City in that 4-all draw at Stamford Bridge. Quite a lot of action, brilliant action from the Premier League. So let's get it all started. Remember, we kick off match day 12 with a 2-1 victory for Wolverhampton Wanderers over Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, Tottenham Hotspurs did come into this game without a couple of their stars, including but not limited to the likes of James Maddison, who is sidelined with an ankle injury, as well as Cristiano Romero, who was suspended. Same for Udogie, having been given red cards in their 4-1 loss against Chelsea on Monday. And then Mickey van de Ven, still in the centre back, was absent. So that forced manager Ange Postecoglou to field Eric Dyer alongside Ben Davies, who was just returning from injury in that centre back partnership. Nonetheless, it was Tottenham that did find the back of the net first through Brennan Johnson, but as the game wore on late on in that game, that lead was cancelled before Wolverhampton Wanderers did find the winning goal. It was Pablo Sarabia who equalized there before Mario Lemina stole all 3 points for Wolverhampton Wanderers. What an evening manager Gary O'Neill had on Saturday. So beautiful stuff there. So that means Wolverhampton Wanderers have beaten up against Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspurs, and these are two teams that are both contending for the title. That sends quite a strong message that they are giant killers. Beautiful game of action. Then at 6 p.m., Arsenal did host Burnley at the Emirates Stadium, and as we did expect, or as we had anticipated or predicted, Arsenal went on to win this one by 3-1. Yes, they did have their scare early on in the second half when Josh Brownhill scored to cancel Leandro Trossard's first half lead, but then 3 minutes later, William Saliba scored that header to restore Arsenal's lead before Zichenko's acrobatic goal that saw them make it 3-1. So 3-1 it ended for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal as they returned to winning ways in the Premier League there. Brilliant performances from the likes of William Saliba, Declan Rice, and Leandro Trossard, among others. But Arsenal had to painfully finish off the game with a manless after substitute. Pablo Vieira was given a straight red card for what was deemed to be a dangerous tackle. He had a high boot there that clashed on an opponent's knee, so he was given a straight red card by referee Mark Oliver. However, surprising for me there, in the first half, there was a goal scoring opportunity, but Saka was deemed to have fouled the opponent with a slight push in the back. Now, that was given as a foul in the space of 1 week when we just had an independent Premier League review panel say that the push of Joelinton against Gabriel Magalhaes was not a foul. Quite the contradiction. But anyway, that's the Premier League for you with its officiation. Never consistent. They say one thing and do another. They will tell you that was not a foul, and just a week later will be giving a similar incident as a foul. So anyway, never mind. It was all 3 points for Mikel Arteta as his side returned to winning ways after having lost their unbeaten run to Newcastle by a 1-0 last weekend. So they go into the international break having returned back to winning ways. And then we went to Selhurst Park, where Everton managed to beat home side Crystal Palace by 3-2. Now Everton were quick to score through defender Myakalenko, who was scoring in his second consecutive Premier League game. So it was the visitors that drew first blood very early on in the game, but then that was cancelled by Ebelechi Eze. He was fouled in the area and awarded a spot kick, which he easily and firmly slotted into the back of the net, and Jordan Pickford was nowhere near it. But it was never to be. Diakore did a score to make it 2-1, and then Edson Eduardo scored to level matters again for the home side. But as the game wore on, it was, I think, in the 86th minute, it was Idrissi Gana Gueye that scored the last goal and denied them a point in what turned out to be a very beautiful game. But Everton did deserve their 3 points, and beautiful, beautiful game it was. Moving forward, at the Old Trafford, Manchester United did beat up against a newly promoted side, Luton Town, by a goal to nil. Victor Lindelof was on the score sheet for Manchester United's only goal of the game. Once again, Manchester United at the end of another victory, but unconvincingly, I must say. While everybody is rumbling about, Manchester United being in this crisis mode, you must note that that victory took them to sixth place, just 6 points off second place Arsenal and 7 off leaders Manchester City, who have 28 points. Now, perhaps they are right to call it a crisis because for most, it is not how they are winning some of these games. It's how they play generally. They're not convincing in their performances. Yes, they had to scramble for that 1-0 victory against a side like Luton Town when they were playing at home. And just a weekend before that, they did beat up against Fulham by a goal to nil. So they seem to be grinding it out. One would argue that any team that not every day you play well, not every day you'll have a big score line for in terms of your goal margin. But this seems to be a growing trend for Manchester United. Remember when they beat up against Nottingham Forest, it was a 3-2 score, while on opening day they beat up against Wolves by a goal to nil. So they seem to be struggling putting that ball in the back of the net. Rasmus Højlund yet to click in the Premier League. Marcus Rashford way off pace and is nowhere near as good as we are accustomed to him. Bruno Fernandes is sort of, shine bright and dim the lights kind of a player this season, so it's yet to click. But anyway, very important 3 points there for Manchester United, taking them to sixth place, and a huge sigh of relief it was for manager Erik ten Hag at the blow of that final whistle. You could tell he was, repeatedly looking at his watch, almost calling it time out from the referee so that the game could end, and he takes his 3 points home as we head into the international break. Remember, they did come into the game on the back of that 4-3 loss against Copenhagen in the Champions League that left them with 1 victory and 3 losses after 4 games in the UEFA Champions League. So that's 1 victory against Copenhagen, losses against Copenhagen, Galatasaray, and Bayern Munich. So it's not looking pretty for them in the Champions League, but at least they go into the international break, during which they will hope that some of their injured players will be able to return and perhaps they can play much, much better. Anyway, we'll wait to see all that. But action continued on Saturday in the late kickoff, as with a surprise victory there. With a big surprise victory as Bournemouth beat up against Newcastle by 2-0. Andoni Iraola, thanks to Dominic Solanke's double, there excitedly walking away with all 3 points. Brilliant stuff. Now Newcastle did come at this game after some brilliant results. Never mind, just last week but one, they had beaten up against Manchester United by 3-0 to knock them out of the Carabao Cup, came into the weekend and beat up against Arsenal by goal to nil before losing 2-0 against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League away in Germany, but perhaps you cannot pin them so much on that. But then, after all that, returned home away at the Vitality Stadium and lost by 2 goals to nil. And lost by 2 goals to nil. We just didn't see that coming. But anyway, it's the Premier League for you. Anybody can beat anybody. Brilliant result there. Yes, they had their chances, but if you did watch that game, the scoreline could have been even bigger. That's how good Bournemouth were over the weekend. Brilliant, as they blew away Newcastle by 2 goals to nil. And then on Sunday, we had another lineup of games. We saw Aston Villa beat up against Fulham by 3 goals to 1. Unfortunately, it was Andy Robertson who scored in the back of his own net there to give Aston Villa the lead before John McGinn scored to double it, and later on Ollie Watkins making it 3-1. And in the only consolation of the game was Raul Jimenez there scoring that goal for Fulham. He had waited for that goal to come for as long as he can remember. But anyway, back on the score sheet, but not there the day for Fulham. I did think that William Borges da Silva was a bit wasteful. He could have done more with the 2 chances he got there. But anyway, he is William. Never, sometimes very brilliant, and some other times, sort of being a shadow of his own self on a given day. So that was it. And then we had Brighton share the spoils with Sheffield United in a 1-1 all draw. Now, this is the game that produced our goal of the weekend. This is the game that produced our goal of the weekend. That's the goal scored by Simon Adingra in that game. But it was Adam Webster who also scored an own goal in this one to cancel out, his side is a lead. So 1-1 it ended. But if you haven't watched that goal, you should take the time and look out for it. Simon Adingra making the run there with the ball and playing a 1-2 with his teammate there before slotting the ball in the back of the net. Slightly similar to the goal that Kaoru Mitoma scored against Wolverhampton Wanderers early on in the season. Beautiful goal that he did score. And remember, he also had scored on Thursday, I think, against Ajax, as they beat Ajax by 2 goals to nil, with Ansu Fati being the other player on the score sheet. So, beautiful game of football. It was on Sunday. Moving forward, Liverpool managed to beat Brentford by 3 goals to nil. Mo Salah with a brace in that one, as well as Diego Jota on target. It was Tsimikas that impressed me the most with 2 assists in that game. Beautiful game of football. Liverpool continue to win, and that pushed them to second place on the table, as we will see as we be looking at the table standings in the Premier League. And then West Ham did beat up against Nottingham Forest by 3 goals to 2 again on Sunday. Beautiful game of football. Lucas Paqueta with a brilliant strike in that one. He drew first blood for David Moyes' side, but then that lead was cancelled by Timothy Awoni's goal, and then you had Anthony Elanga score to give Nottingham Forest the lead. He went on a wild celebration and pulled off his shirt as if it was a match-winning goal that had been scored in the dying minutes of the game. And yet, it had been almost just midway the second half. No wonder Gerard Bowen scored to level matters before Thomas Soucek scored that winning goal for David Moyes as his side returned to winning ways, I think after 3 consecutive losses in the Premier League. So, David Moyes back to winning ways. Remember, on Thursday, his side had beaten up against Olympiacos by 1 goal to 0 in the Europa League, so they go into this international break with good feelings about themselves after those 2 consecutive victories in the respective competitions. And then came the game of the weekend. I must say, it did not disappoint. In the previous, I think, 3 or 4 fixtures, at the Stamford Bridge between Chelsea and Manchester City. Manchester City had won, I think, the 3 by a goal to nil. So perhaps many did expect that this was a game that would offer very few goals as well, given that trend. But it did as the opposite. But like I said in our match preview, that this game was going to be won in the midfield. It was going to be a midfield battle. And you could say nobody won the midfield battle. It was sort of fair and square. Chelsea came at this game with all their strength. I did think that they were quite brilliant against the Manchester City side that are well chilled, that have been playing for the past 2, 3 seasons together for most of these players. But I did think Chelsea gave them a run for their money. No wonder it was a 4-4 score at the end of it anyway. So it was a bright Erling Haaland who scored a penalty there and also scored another early on in the second half. But Manuela Kanji there on target as well as Rodri. But on the other side, you had, Thiago Silva score to cancel Erling Haaland's first goal. You had Raheem Sterling scoring in that one. You also had Jackson, you know, capitalizing on a loose ball after Ederson Morales had been forced into a save to score there to make it 3-3. And then Rodri goes ahead to, score a thunderbolt on the other side. And you think, well, perhaps this is just enough for Manchester City to walk away with all 3 points before the international break. And then Ruben Diaz said, no, we can't go away with all 3 points. He did foul Adam Broja there. It was Broja in the box that he did foul the substitute there for the referee Anthony Taylor to award a penalty, which Cole Palmer, a former Manchester City player, did convert to level the score 4-4. So 4-4 it finished. Mauricio Pochettino very furious at the end there, asking the referee why he ended the game when they were in the process of an attack. He really wanted this one so badly. But a beautiful game of football it was for us to watch, and it gave us the thrill of a football that we all look forward to each weekend of football that comes our way. Anyway, so allow us to move on to our team of the week before we take a look at the table standings and then leave it at that. So for our goal of the week, like I did say, it was Simon Adingra's goal against Sheffield United. If you haven't watched it, do go watch it. There. For a manager of the week, I'll go with Jurgen Klopp, who guided his side against Brentford as they won by 3 goals to nil. For the goalkeeper, yes, Alson Ramsey-Baker was very impressive in their victory, but I did think that Wes Fordingham of Sheffield United did perform very, very well in that game. Before Brighton were reduced to 10 men, he did perform very well. He made a couple of saves there that really kept to the scoreline at 1-0. It could have been more, and perhaps Sheffield United may have not found a way back. But he did perform really well. In our centre back, in our whole system, we're having the usual 3-4-3, and in our centre back, we have William Saliba of Arsenal, managed to get his name on the score sheet. Brilliant game of football he had as a beat up against Burnley, but 3 goals to 1. We have Everton's Myakalenko scored in their 3-2 victory against Crystal Palace, as well as Victor Lindelof, who scored the only goal as Manchester United beat up against Luton Town. And then in midfield, I went with Simon Adingra, Kostas Tsimikas of Liverpool, John McGinn, who also managed to get his name on the score sheet as Aston Villa beat up against Fulham by 3 goals to 1. Kostas Tsimikas provided 2 assists there, for one for Mo Salah and for Diego Jota, as Liverpool beat Brentford by 3 goals to 0. And then Pablo Sarabia, who scored the equalizer as Wolves beat up against Tottenham by 2 goals to 1. For our front 3, I did choose Dominic Solanke, who scored a brace against Newcastle as Bournemouth won that game by 2 goals to 0. And then Mo Salah, who also managed to get himself a double in the weekend. And then you had Raheem Sterling, where scoring against his former side, Manchester City. He had a wonderful game of football. I did think yesterday, beautiful game of football he had. It was very impressive. He was the old Raheem Sterling that we have come to know so many times. He did create a chance there for Malo Gusto, but he just fired that, over the bar. Very disappointing. Very disappointing for him to, to do that. But anyway, that's our team of the week. In our honorary mentions for this team of the week, we had Chelsea's Cole Palmer. I thought he did have a good game. We have Alson Ramses Baker, who was competing for that goalkeeping spot in this team of the week. We had Abdul Diakore of Everton managed to get himself on the score sheet as they beat up against Crystal Palace by 3 goals to 2. We had James Ward-Prowse of West Ham, very, very crucial player, very wonderful game he had of football. They beat up against Nottingham Forest, and then Thomas Suchek, again of West Ham, who scored the winning goal for David Moyes' side. So that was our team of the week. That's our team of the week. So allow me to run you through the table standings of the Premier League. Like I said, Manchester City do lead the pack with 28 points from 12 games, while Liverpool comes second on a better goal difference with 27 points. They do share a similar number of points as Arsenal, who are in third place. It's just Liverpool have 17 positive goal difference, while Arsenal have 16. In fourth place is Tottenham, who have lost 2 games now in a row. That's against Chelsea and against Wolverhampton Wanderers, but they are still fourth with 26 points there. In number 5, it's Aston Villa, 25 points from 12 games. Manchester United come 6th with 21 points from a similar number of games. Newcastle follow in 7th with 20 points, while Brighton come in 8th with 19 points. West Ham United climb to 9th place with 17 points, while Chelsea complete the top 10 with 16 points. In 11th place is Brentford, who did lose to Liverpool. They also have 16 points. Wolverhampton Wanderers, after that victory, have 15 points to their tally. Crystal Palace at 15 points as well in 13th place, while Everton at 14th place do have 14 points. In 15th place is Nottingham Forest with 13 points. Fulham 16th with 12 points. Bournemouth, after that victory, moved to 9 points, but are still 17th on the table. Luton Town 6 points, Sheffield United 5 points, while Burnley are still bottom of the table with just 4 points from 12 games. So those are the table standings of the Premier League, and that's it we had for you this weekend. So keep it locked on the channel for more that will come your way. Otherwise, have a blessed week, and I'll see you next time.